All right. So, welcome to this quick tutorial on orthographics. Now, I do have other videos available. I may or may not have released those for your class, but let's just talk about what we're going to do. The point of an orthographic is to make a three-view drawing, a top, front, and a right side. All right. With these are isometrics. What we do is we transform the isometrics into orthographic drawings. So we're going to use the same 12 images, the same 12 isometrics into orthographics, okay? The colors that you use might be different than what you see here, and also the split step is a little bit tricky. We'll talk about that in class, but for the most part, you see I have a front labeled, I have a side labeled, I have a slope labeled, and I have a top, okay? So the slope can be labeled in different ways. The slope can be labeled with just like a yellow, as you see here. I also have a yellow with the stripes going down it to represent that it can be part of the side. Again, the split step's a little bit different because we call this the front when we start drawing it as an orthographic, but we can call this the front in the isometric world, only to make things easier when we're drawing it, okay? Uh, Again, slope, slope. The front here is red, okay? You see all the red here, that is the front view. Uh, um, All right, and the side is green. Okay, all the green that you see here is all of your sides. Blue, of course, the last one is the top. So what would this look like in the real world? Well, depending on if I give this to you or not, this is what you can do. You can actually take this and we can transform top, front, and right side. Now, what I want you to notice is this is a 3D representation, also known as an isometric, and this is an orthographic, top, front, and right side. Here's what I want you to notice about this, okay? If we look very carefully, the top view is always up here at the top conveniently, the front view, and then the right side is all lined up with one another. And let me show you what I mean by that. If we were to take these lines, okay? If we look at this, we can see that how all of these line up with one another, okay? The top, the front, and the right side, all right? So what I mean is all these lines, see how they all line up with one another? Okay, they all line up. That's how it should look. Now we're going to do this side by side. If you're in middle school and high school, we might do it side by side, and we might do it like this as well. Okay, depending on the curriculum, it will change how we set this up just to save paper and to save time. We might do it a little bit differently, but this is the proper setup. Okay, and how does this actually look? If we were looking at this, and we're going to say that our red here, and I'm just going to do this quickly for the sake of time. Let's say that our red here is going to be our top. Okay, so let's say our red here is going to be our top. All right. That means that this over here, this top would also be red. Okay. Make sure you color this in all the way. I'm just doing this quickly for the sake of time. Okay. And let's say our front is blue. Again, your colors may differ from what you're actually doing, but remember, it doesn't matter what the color is as long as it's consistent throughout. Okay, this would be front. And this would be front. That means that this would be the front, right? Because that's this part here. This would be the front as well. And again, this would be the front. And again, I'm just doing this really quickly so that we can kind of see this. Now, what I want you to notice is see how nice clean these lines are. This is how your line should look when you get done, whether you're doing this side by side or top, front, right side like this. Okay, they should always be clean and neat. And then the right side, okay, it's green, and the right side we see here is green. Now, you might be saying to yourself, why is there like a little dash there, a little dotted line? And if I didn't talk to you about this yet, I'll tell you why. Because in here, this little cove that's in here, right? We can't see that if we're standing at the right side looking. All we would see is a rectangle and a rectangle. But we represent it with a dotted line or a dashed line because that will show us a hidden feature that's in there. Okay, so this is really what a 2D orthographic projection, as it's called, or a 3-view drawing is called, right? Make sure we always have a key up top. So we're going to write down that green is our side view. Okay. Blue is our front. And then red is our top. All right. If you had a yellow for a slope, which there isn't one on here, you'd put that on there as well. And then also the name, your name, and then what the item name is. Okay. So whatever the name of this is, and of course your name should be on here as well. Okay, always give me a key. It lets the person know, who's ever reading this, hey, the red is representative of the top, the blue is the front, and the green is the side. That's pretty obvious in this case because you can just kind of see it, but when you just have the 3 views, you want to make sure that your colors match up correctly. All right, so I'm going to show you this sheet. This sheet is very common. This is the one that you might get from me. It says exam on the top. I sometimes use this as an exam. Sometimes I don't, just depending on the school year, of course, and the grade level. But what would this look like if I were to draw it in the real world? Okay, so I have these 12 here, and I also have them printed up in a 3D printed. Okay, so what would these really look like? Let's take something like the steep slope. So if I'm looking at the steep slope, the objective here, remember, is to turn a 3-dimensional object, this isometric, into 2 dimensions. Okay, and we're going to start with the top. And then we're going to go to the front view and then the side view. So TFS is top, front, side. So what would this look like if I was looking at it from the top? So you're looking at it from the top down. It would look like an L that's blue. And then you'd see kind of like a rectangle here. Or excuse me, a square here, excuse me. That would be the slope. Okay. And remember, we're working with boxes. We're working within these 4 dots. Okay, never go outside of the 4 dots. There's no need to. And make sure that you touch the corner dots where necessary. All right, this just happens to line up. This just happens to line up perfectly on here. I did that intentionally, obviously, but you're not going to trace these onto here. That's not what the point of this is. But it just helps you to see like what this would look like. Okay, so what we do is we always use a ruler, a straight edge. Okay, I don't care if you're using the side of a box or whatever. All right, in this case, we're going to kind of lay this out and say, what would this look like? Well, this is 8 by 8, so I know that I could use the full. Okay, and I'm using a marker. Please be careful when you use a marker because it will bleed through to on the other side. I'm not going to ask myself, how many does this come in? Well, this should be about 1 inch. This should be about 1 inch, right? So if this is 8 by 8, that means if I go over 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, this is about the 1 inch mark here. And 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's about the 1 inch mark there. And what I can do is I can just bring these up so they can touch. Okay. That is now the top view. Now, what would the front look like? The front would actually be pretty simple. It would just be 2 rectangles, right? So okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4 right here. Okay, 2 rectangles, pretty simple, right? And then the side view, what would it look like? Well, it'd be just a big box. You'd see like that slope on there somewhere. Okay, so let's start off with the big box. And again, if you don't have a marker, you can always use a black pen. I recommend doing this in pencil first to make sure you get it correct. Okay, and then we have to look at how many this comes over. So if I'm looking at this, you could say, look, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfectly lined up with this one, right? But it has to be look something like this. This one comes all the way down to here. So let's say this comes over 1, 2, 3. We could say 4. We could say a full inch, right? Why not? Okay. Remember to label each one of these, right? This is the steep slope. So this is the steep slope. All right. And then we got to put our colors in. So yellow is going to be the slope. Okay. And the slope can be seen, if you notice it on here, it can be seen here. So this would be all yellow. Okay. All right, this is the top view, remember? This is the front view. So this part will be yellow here. Okay, and I don't see any slope on the side. So we're done with our yellow. Our top view, we're going to use blue in this case because this one just happens to be blue. Remember, you can have different colors than me as long as it remains the same throughout. All right, so this is blue. And again, this is not the proper method of coloring. I'm just doing this very quickly to make the video shorter. Okay, you can, by all means, or you should, color this in all the way. Do not just, do it quickly. I'm just doing this quickly for the sake of the video. Okay, the front here is red. Okay, and then the side is going to be completely green. And again, remember how dark my lines are? I can color right over them like this. You can still see my lines. All right, and remember to go and color the whole thing nice and dark so we could see it, right? Again, this is not the proper way to do this. I'm just doing this quickly so that you can see how it's done. All right, but it's labeled steep slope, right? I got my top, my slope is labeled. I got to do green for side. All right, and then I'm going to do red for front. And of course, I'm just putting this up here real quick. Again, just getting this done. All right, so there's your top, front, and your side view, and that is the steep slope, and that's how you make them. And they're all pretty much done the exact same way. There really is no difference. All right, have fun.